3 days before my sister Bonnie's wedding, my mother called me and said something I never thought I would hear from her. "Rachel, don't come." I actually laughed because I thought she was joking. Then she added, "You're not invited to Bonnie's wedding." I was standing in my kitchen with a grocery bag in one hand and my phone against my ear. For a few seconds, I couldn't understand the sentence. Not because the words were complicated, because they were impossible. Bonnie was my younger sister. My mother had spent the last year talking about how important this wedding was. She had called me at least twice a week about flowers, invitations, table settings, dress fittings, seating arrangements, and even the exact kind of candles Bonnie wanted. And me? I had paid for things. A lot of things. I had quietly covered deposits when my parents said they were short. I had paid a vendor after my father promised he'd reimburse me. I had even used money from the emergency fund I had built after years of working 2 jobs. But none of that mattered now. "You're serious?" I asked. My mother's voice became colder. "Bonnie doesn't want you there." I swallowed. What did I do? There was a long silence. Then my mother said, "You've always made everything about you." The grocery bag slipped from my hand. A carton of eggs hit the floor. Neither of us spoke. Then she hung up. I stood there looking at the broken eggs, wondering how a person could spend her whole life trying to earn a place in her own family, only to discover that the place had never really been hers. But that wasn't even the worst part. 3 days later, at 8:14 inches the morning, my phone rang again. It was my father. His first words were nothing like my mother's. "Rachel, sweetheart, we need your help." I closed my eyes, because I already knew what was coming. "We need $38,000. And that was the moment I realized something my family had spent years teaching me to ignore. Sometimes people don't miss you. They miss what you can provide. My name is Rachel Carter. I'm 32 years old, and for most of my life, I was the daughter who was expected to understand. When my sister got something first, I was supposed to understand. When my parents needed help, I was supposed to understand. When Bonnie made a mistake, I was supposed to forgive. When I achieved something, I was expected to stay humble. And when I needed something, somehow, there was always a reason why it wasn't the right time. But before I tell you what happened at Bonnie's wedding, and why my parents eventually came to my doorstep begging me for $38,000, you need to understand how my family worked. From the outside, we looked normal, maybe even happy. We lived in a quiet neighborhood outside Columbus, Ohio, in a 2-story house with a green front door, a small maple tree in the yard, and an old wooden swing my father had built when Bonnie and I were children. My father, Mark, had worked in commercial construction for most of his life. He was 58, broad-shouldered, quiet, and proud. My mother, Linda, worked part-time at a local dental office and spent the rest of her energy managing our family. At least, that's what she called it. Bonnie was 29. She was beautiful, charming, confident, and knew exactly how to make people feel important when she needed something from them. When we were kids, people used to tell us we looked alike. I never saw it. Bonnie had thick blonde hair, bright eyes, and the kind of smile that made people forgive her before she even apologized. I had dark brown hair, green eyes, and a quieter personality. I wasn't shy. I just didn't need a room to notice me. That was probably my first mistake, because in my family, the person who needed attention usually got it. And the person who quietly solved problems usually became invisible. When Bonnie was 13, she wanted a horse. My parents said horses were too expensive. She cried for 3 days. On the 4th day, they bought her riding lessons. When I was 13, I wanted to take a summer riding program. My parents told me we couldn't afford it, so I worked at a diner instead. When Bonnie graduated high school, my parents rented a hotel ballroom. When I graduated, Mom ordered takeout and said we'd celebrate properly later. We never did, but I didn't hold it against them. At least, I told myself I didn't. I convinced myself that some families were simply uneven, that parents didn't always realize they were treating their children differently. That being patient was a sign of maturity, so I became patient. When Bonnie went to college, my parents helped with her rent. When I went to college, I worked weekends and took out a small loan. When Bonnie wanted a new car, Dad co-signed. When my old car stopped running during my 2nd year, he said, "You'll figure it out." And I did. I always did. After college, I got a job in insurance claims. It wasn't glamorous, but I was good at it. I learned how to analyze files, spot inconsistencies, negotiate fairly, and keep calm when everyone else was panicking. Over time, I became a senior claims specialist. My salary wasn't enormous, but I was careful with money. I rented a small apartment. I cooked at home. I paid off my student loan. And every month, I put something into savings. Eventually, I bought a modest townhouse. It was the first thing in my life that belonged completely to me. I loved that house. The little front porch, the narrow staircase, the kitchen with gray cabinets and a window over the sink. It wasn't impressive. It was peaceful. And peace, I learned, becomes extremely valuable when your family keeps confusing love with obligation. Bonnie met Ethan when she was 26. Ethan was 31 and worked in commercial real estate. He was polished, ambitious, and very comfortable talking about money. He didn't seem to dislike me, but he didn't seem interested in knowing me, either. The first time I met him, he looked around my townhouse and said, "Nice place. Thanks." Then he asked, "What did you pay for it?" I thought he was joking. He wasn't. After that, I kept my distance. Bonnie adored him. She said he understood her. She said he had big plans. And eventually, they got engaged. That was when the wedding planning began. Bonnie wanted the kind of wedding she had seen in magazines. A country club, live musicians, a floral arch, custom invitations, a 6-tier cake, a photographer who charged more than my first car, and a reception for nearly 200 people. My mother loved every second of it. She sent me pictures of tablecloths while I was at work. She called me during lunch to discuss menus. She asked me to compare hotel prices. At first, I was happy to help. Bonnie was my sister. I wanted her to have a beautiful wedding. Then the money problems started. It began with a call from my mother one Tuesday evening. "Rachel, don't panic." That sentence always meant I should panic. "What happened?" "The venue needs the next payment." "How much?" There was a pause. 6,000. I looked at my bank account. I had enough, so I transferred it. "Dad will pay you back," Mom promised. Okay. He didn't. 2 weeks later, the florist needed another deposit. $4,800. Mom asked again. I paid it. Then the photographer. Then the rehearsal dinner. Then a hotel block. Every time, the same promise. "We'll take care of it. You know how your father is. Bonnie will pay you after the wedding. Your family." That last sentence became the key that unlocked everything. Your family. It was the sentence they used whenever they wanted something from me, and the sentence they forgot whenever I needed something from them. By the time the wedding was 3 weeks away, I had spent more than $18,000 on Bonnie's wedding. I never told anyone. I didn't want Bonnie to feel guilty. I didn't want Dad to feel embarrassed. I didn't want Mom to think I was keeping score. So I kept quiet. Then one Friday night, I went to my parents' house for dinner. Mom was setting the table. Bonnie was sitting on the couch scrolling through her phone. Dad was in the kitchen opening a bottle of sparkling cider. I smiled. "Hey, everyone." Bonnie glanced up. "Did you bring the contract?" I froze. "What contract?" "The vendor contract." "For what?" "The reception." I never said I had it. Bonnie looked annoyed. "Mom said you were handling it." I looked at my mother. She shrugged. "I thought you had it." I stared at them. "Why would I have it?" "Because you've been helping," Mom said. "That doesn't mean I have every document." Bonnie rolled her eyes. "Forget it." I put my purse on the chair. "Bonnie, if you need something, just ask me." She looked at me. I shouldn't have to ask. That sentence stayed with me because I suddenly understood. Bonnie didn't think I was helping. She thought I was responsible. There was a difference. I wasn't her sister anymore. I was part of the wedding infrastructure, a financial safety net with a heartbeat. Still, I stayed quiet. That weekend, I asked my father about the money he owed me. He looked embarrassed. "I know, honey. So when can you pay me back?" He rubbed his forehead. "After the wedding." "Okay. Everything should settle after the reception." I nodded. I wanted to believe him. Then he said something strange. "Just don't make this harder than it needs to be." I looked at him. "What does that mean?" "Nothing." But it wasn't nothing. The following Monday, I received an email from the country club. It said they had received a payment. It listed my name as the primary payer. I called the billing office. They confirmed something I had never been told. The entire wedding account had been placed under my name, not as a donor, not as a family member. As the financially responsible party, my stomach dropped. I asked when that had happened. About 6 months ago, the woman said. 6 months. I had never signed anything. I asked for a copy of the authorization. She said she couldn't email it because it contained private information. So I drove there after work. The manager showed me the file, and there it was. My name, my address, my phone number, and beneath it, a signature that looked almost like mine. Almost. But it wasn't mine. I took a picture. Then I called my father. Did you sign my name on the wedding account? Silence. Dad? He finally said, we were in a difficult position. You used my name. We knew you'd help. That isn't the point. You're making this sound worse than it is. I laughed, not because it was funny, because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You signed my name without asking. It was just paperwork. No, my voice shook. It wasn't just paperwork. He hung up. That night, I sat at my kitchen table for almost 2 hours. I looked at every payment I'd made, every receipt, every transfer, every text where Mom had asked for help. For the first time, I added everything together. The total was $24,612. Not $18,000, not $20,000, $24,612. I felt sick, not because of the money, because I suddenly saw the pattern. And once you see a pattern, you can't unsee it. The next morning, I called my mother. She answered immediately. You're overreacting. I hadn't even said anything. How do you know what I'm calling about? Your father told me. Mom, you put my name on a wedding account without asking. It was temporary. You told me you were short. We were. You never said you were using my identity for financial paperwork. Her voice sharpened. Don't use dramatic language. It's not dramatic. Bonnie's wedding is in 2 weeks. I know. Do you want to ruin it? That question broke something in me, because there it was. My family wasn't asking whether they had hurt me. They were asking whether I was willing to sacrifice myself quietly enough to keep the celebration pretty. I need you to remove my name, I said. We can't. Why? Because the venue won't accept the change this late. Then that's your problem. There was silence. My mother finally whispered, Rachel, after everything we've done for you. I closed my eyes. Mom, what exactly have you done for me? She didn't answer, because she knew. So did I. That night, Bonnie called. I heard you're upset. I am. You're letting money ruin my wedding. Bonnie, this isn't about your wedding. Yes, it is. No. It's about you and Mom and Dad using my name and my money without asking. She sighed. You always make yourself the victim. I sat down. Bonnie, I have paid $24,000 toward your wedding. You offered. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. When? You never said no. That sentence hit me harder than anything else. Because apparently, in my family, silence was consent. My absence from an argument was agreement. My kindness was authorization. And my love was a blank check. 3 days before the wedding, Mom called. You're not invited. I still hear her voice sometimes, not the words, the calmness, the certainty, as though excluding me was the most reasonable thing in the world. Why? Bonnie doesn't want negativity around her. I almost laughed. I'm negative? You've been questioning everything because you used my name. We're not discussing this again. Mom? Don't come to the wedding. Then she hung up. I sat on the floor. For a long time. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there. Then I opened my email, and I sent one message. To the country club. I wrote, please remove my financial information from the account and place the balance responsibility back with the original wedding party. I have not authorized further charges. I attached my identification and the documentation showing that I had not signed the account. I pressed send. Then I did something even harder. I stopped paying. The next 3 days were strangely peaceful. I didn't check my phone every 5 minutes. I didn't ask about decorations. I didn't answer messages from my mother. I didn't look at Bonnie's social media. I went to work. I ordered Chinese food. I watched old sitcoms. I cleaned my kitchen. I slept. And for the first time in years, nobody was asking me for anything. Then, 3 days later, at 8:14 the morning, my father called. Rachel? His voice was different. Smeller. Dad? We need your help. I waited. The wedding is in trouble. What happened? The venue has frozen the account. I said nothing. They need $38,000 cleared before the reception. I looked at the clock. 8:15. What do you want me to do? We need the money. No. He went silent. Rachel, please. No. We're asking as your parents. You're asking as the people who told me I wasn't welcome at the wedding. Bonnie didn't mean it. She said it? No? Mom said it. She was upset. You all were. Desaihu. Please come home. I almost said yes. Then I remembered the phone call. You're not invited. For years, I had been trained to respond to their emergencies before considering my own feelings. This time, I didn't. I can't give you $38,000. You can. How do you know? Because I know you have savings. He sounded almost desperate. I whispered, You don't get to count my money anymore. Then he said something I wasn't prepared for. The money isn't even for the wedding. I sat up straight. What? He didn't answer. Dad, what did you say? The wedding is only part of it. What is the rest? Silence. Then he said, You need to come home. I drove to my parents' house that afternoon. When I arrived, Mom was sitting at the dining table. Bonnie was there. Ethan was there. And there was a folder in front of my father. Nobody smiled. I took a seat. Tell me the truth, I said. My father looked down. The wedding isn't 38,000 short. Then what is it? 17,000. Okay. And the other 21,000. He stopped. Bonnie looked at him. Ethan looked at the floor. I felt a chill run through me. Other 21,000 what? My father finally said, Bonnie owes it. Who? He didn't answer. Ethan did. A lender. I stared at him. What kind of lender? Ethan cleared his throat. An old business arrangement. What business arrangement? Dad looked at Bonnie, then at me. And that was when the truth finally came out. Ethan had been planning to buy a small commercial property with a partner. The deal fell apart. Money had been borrowed. Some of it had been moved through family accounts. My parents had used the wedding budget to cover part of the shortfall, thinking they could replace it before anyone noticed. Then another payment came due. Then another. And suddenly, the wedding wasn't a celebration anymore. It was camouflage. They had been moving money around, trying to keep everything standing. My mother whispered, We thought we'd fix it. I looked at Bonnie. You knew? She nodded. When? About 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks? I felt my chest tighten. And you still told me I wasn't invited. Bonnie looked away. I didn't want you judging me. I laughed bitterly. You didn't want me at your wedding because you were afraid I'd notice what was happening. No. Yes. She looked at me. You always think you're smarter than everyone. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Ethan finally spoke. We don't need an argument. I turned toward him. No. You need $38,000. He looked embarrassed. Yes. I looked at my father. Where did my 24,000 go? He didn't answer. And then I understood. My money had already been used to help cover their problem. I whispered. You weren't going to pay me back after the wedding. My father closed his eyes. No. My mother started crying. We were desperate. I looked at her. You made me feel guilty for asking about my own money. I'm sorry. You excluded me from the wedding. We were under pressure. You used my name. We were scared. You lied to me. We're your parents. And somehow, that last sentence hurt the most. Because they were. They were supposed to be the people I trusted, not the people I had to protect myself from. I stood up. I'm leaving. My father reached for my hand. Rachel, please. I pulled away gently. No. Please don't do this. Do what? Turn your back on your family. I looked around the room. I didn't turn my back on my family. I pointed toward the folder. My family turned my trust into a financial plan. Nobody spoke. I walked out. But the story didn't end there. Because that evening, I received an email from an attorney. At first, I thought it was related to the wedding account. It wasn't. It was about my grandmother. My father's mother. Her name was Eleanor Carter. She had passed away 2 years earlier. Everyone said she had left everything to my father. That included her house, investments, and several accounts. I had never questioned it. She wasn't the kind of person who discussed money, but the email was from the attorney who had handled her estate. The message said, "Miss Carter, I need to speak with you regarding a provision in your grandmother's estate documents that may affect you directly." I called immediately.